Hello, hello, hello. This is Nurse Ivory coming to you today to talk about something that I feel like I am seeing in the cannabis space, and I want to see if you're seeing it as well. So it feels like very slowly that there is a shift that's happening where we are moving from a more prohibited industry to a more regulated industry. It's very subtle, so if you don't pay attention to it, you'll miss it. But there is some things that's going on that it looks like the industry is the regulated industry is starting to take form, right? So yes, I know we're still federally prohibited, but there are some signs. So one of the things that I'll say is recently the DEA announced that they were taking the initial steps to start the process of approving additional entities to be able to perform or to be able to conduct research on medical cannabis on the federal level. Now, the reason why that's a big deal is because for 50 plus years, the University of Mississippi at Ole Miss has been the only entity that has been allowed to conduct research, medical cannabis research on the federal level. So the fact that 50 plus years later, we are in the steps of approving or at least evaluating the applications for additional entities, that's huge. And it shows that there's going to be a big boom in the research industry, cannabis research industry. And that's important because if you listen to my last video, and if you haven't, be sure to go check it out. I talked about the medical insurance claims as it relates to cannabis, medical cannabis. And so one of the main reasons why the insurance industry does not cover medical cannabis on your insurance claim is number one, it's still considered on level one. It's not descheduled. It's still scheduled one. And secondly, because they say it's not enough research to support it. So now that the DEA is allowing for additional entities to come on board to conduct research, that's going to open up the industry into a more regulated form, right? So the second thing that I've noticed is through the director from the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA. Recently, that director placed an article in the Journal for Health Affairs. The article was entitled, "Addiction Should Be Treated, Not Penalized." That's big for a federal entity or governmental agency to write into a journal for a title such as that. Now, even though this director did not go as far as to make a case for decriminalization, that's still big. That pretty much the takeaway was addiction should be treated. Addiction is a medical problem and it shouldn't be a criminal problem. It's pretty much what that was saying. So that shows us a little shift in thought too on a federal level. The other thing that I would say is on 420, just about a little bit over a month ago, there were 3 bills that were dropped, calling for the SBA, the Small Business Administration, to utilize some of their resources and their loans to issue them to cannabis-based businesses. That's a big deal because in the past, the SBA would not touch cannabis at all. Now, even though that those bills have not passed or they're not currently in the law, just right now those bills have been filed and they're moving their way through Congress. Hopefully when they're filed, that will open up a whole new industry, and that's something that we'll have to watch for to see if cannabis related businesses will qualify for SBA funding. So what is the thing that will probably help to determine that? Well, we are on what I consider cannabis bill watch. So we are waiting on this massive cannabis legislation to be dropped. If you've listened to anything Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has said lately, he has been telling us that any day now, we should have a historical medical cannabis bill or cannabis reform bill drop anytime now. So in that bill, we don't know the details yet, but he has given us a few hints. He has told us that he's going to take his bill, which is the Marijuana Freedom and Opportunity Act, and he's going to take the MORE Act, and combine them together to come up with this new bill. Now, if we know anything about the Marijuana Freedom and Opportunity Act and the MORE Act, both of those bills call upon the SBA to provide loans and other resources to communities of color as well as women. Both bills call for that. So if we know that the next bill that's coming out is pretty much going to be a compilation of those two bills, plus when we add in the fact that on 4/20, 3 other small business administration type bills were dropped or released, calling for cannabis-based businesses to be eligible for small business administration funding, then we know that this is a big deal, right? And it's something that we need to be watching out for. So I wanted to share those few points in the bills. And one of the bills that was released by the Committee for the Small Business Administration, they call for legislation for cannabis-based businesses to have access to the microloan, to have access to an array of different loans, one of them being the Small Business Investment Company Program, and another one being the 504 Loan Program. So again, we don't know if those bills are going to be approved, but it's just important to know that that's a big deal for even another federal agency, which is the SBA, to even be in the mix of talking about issuing loans or consideration for loans to cannabis-based businesses. So I wanted to share that with you guys. I also wanted to share that actually I am the co-founder of Cannabis Nurses of Color, and our organization soon will be hosting a workshop with a director from the SBA. And that director from the SBA will talk about these different loan programs that are available. So I will drop the information here just in case you want to attend. No, you don't have to be a nurse. You just have to be someone that's interested in SBA-backed funding as it relates to cannabis-related businesses. So I'll drop my information. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share if this information was helpful to you. And I'll drop my email in the comments. Thanks, y'all.